This is subjective because you're the only one who's saying you're hard-working and motivated, and where's the evidence that you have achieved success with youth players? A very quick video today just to show you the importance of getting your CV right, and also to give you a few ideas how you can develop your CV very easily using the essential sections which is going to qualify you specifically for a role, instead of wasting your time handing in CVs with pages looking just like this. Now each week I get a lot of CVs handed to me in need of developing, in need of touching up, editing or fixing. And more often than not, I would say a good 90% looks something like this. Now I'm not talking about just one page of writing, I'm talking about sometimes 3 or 4, even 5 or 6 pages of writing, which is just attached page after page after page after page of long writing, which is using up space. But also from my experience as a general manager and a recruiter, it's something that I'm not interested, in all honesty, to read through. So what I'm going to do is start off on an example of a common CV which needs improving, and then I'm going to finish off with a CV which I help to transform for my clients, and just to compare the differences and also give a very brief overview of the benefits of the CV which I develop for people as well. So as you can see, starting off here, we've got a CV handed in, and it often starts off with straight away the name, maybe the contact details, and also a personal profile. Now this is very, very common, almost everyone does this. They start off with their name and details and a personal profile right at the top in this section here, and then they follow on straight into their experiences or qualifications, or in some cases even their school qualifications or school exam results from over 15 or 20 years ago. Then this leads to the personal profile, which isn't really needed at the top, if at all, in this capacity, becoming generic and subjective. Generic because everyone's using the same buzzwords. Everyone's using some kind of buzzword similar to I'm a hard-working and motivated coach with experience of achieving success with young players. Now this is subjective because you're the only one who's saying you're hard-working and motivated, and where's the evidence that you have achieved success with youth players? So if everyone's writing the same thing, how are you standing out from everyone else, which is the whole point of being unique and going for a job in the first place? If everyone's the same, how does someone choose which person they want to work for them? They're looking for that coach who's going to stand out from the rest and has something which qualifies for the needed criteria of that job role. And being generic and subjective in the very first paragraph of the whole page sets the tone for the rest of your CV. It sets the tone for you as an employee and a coach as well. And with that in mind, when given the opportunity to really start off your CV as a first step of showing them the type of person and character you are, we can use this to really capture their imagination from the beginning, and most importantly qualify ourselves for the role as soon as possible, which I'll talk a little bit more on in just a few minutes. But before I do move on, just finishing off on this personal profile. I mean, this is a very, very quick, short example, but there are personal profiles which go on about their playing strategy, their preferred formation, and how they defend deep against inverted wingers, and this isn't the time or place, and maybe it's not needed at all to be putting that kind of information in. And just as an additional note, and again some people do this also, putting in your family details or how many pets or how many cars you have could go against you. If people are looking for a coach which can be flexible and maybe move to different locations, maybe they're not looking for someone with a family and 3 or 4 children. Now that isn't singling out people. That's just me trying to show that if we're smart about things, we don't have to disclose things which may go against us when applying for certain roles. Now this isn't all to scale, but when we send a CV, let's say through email, when the recruiter or the recruiting party first opens up the email attachment with your CV, it will show half a page. So not to scale, but this is the top half of the first page of your CV. And all we can see here is the name and your contact details. It's that generic and subjective personal profile paragraph, and then just a few paragraphs of one of your roles, which has started by your earliest role, which was 2012. So here, as soon as your CV is opened, you haven't actually told them what is specific about you, about your best skills, about what you can give, and they haven't got a clear overall outlook of why you qualified for the role. Straight away, I've opened it, I can't even see if you qualified for the role, I can't even see if you're what I need. I've just been faced with this paragraph with you saying that you're motivated and you're great success with youth players, but I don't see any evidence at all. And I just see bullet points with paragraphs telling me about a role that I already know. You're explaining what each and every one of your duties are. Some of you may think that's okay, and that's up to you, but I'm going to show the other side of the spectrum later on how we can improve on this, because this is a first impression. And this is making someone having to scroll down, having to flick onto a next page possibly, having to read more when really we don't have to. Because can you imagine if we can qualify ourselves just on this half of a page for the role, not only are you going to make them want to continue reading your CV, but the chances are you might actually put yourself in contention for the role just on the first half of the page, the first half of the first page. Now we're going to look at the other side now of what it could look like. This is an example of the CVs I'm transforming for people. I'm turning it from that CV we saw before into something resembling like this. Now straight away from the top we have qualifying criteria. So here are 3 points that I put which will be specific to the role I'm applying for. And just an example here. It's got my name, John Smith, UEFA A licence and youth modules, 15 plus years of coaching experience and head coach and director of coaching. So straight away, right at the top in the very first part, it's showing my qualification, my amount of experience and a couple of roles which I've held. Can you see the difference already? Just in this small area, it's shown the reader more than the whole page of the last CV that we looked at. Look at the difference it makes, and yes, they can see if I'm qualified enough for the role already, and I will be because I've made sure that the qualifying criteria has been put against what they're looking for in the job advert. The next part is a testimonial. I haven't ended my CV saying references on request. Why do you want to wait until someone requests a reference? Because a reference is the opportunity for someone else to talk about you. A testimonial is someone else saying how good you are at this, what your strengths are, why you should be employed by the next employers. This trumps your personal profile at the top 100%. You're letting someone else do the talking instead of us being subjective, talking about what we think we're good at. The next part here is the experience. So all the organisations or clubs you work with, if you're a football coach or a staff, easy to read. It's got all the dates included. It's got the logos just to show a little bit of visual. And it's all been fit into this left column instead of taking up 3 or 4 pages, which the first example did. So that's the experience section. The next part here now is additional information. Depending how much experience you've got, you can put additional experience. You can put a few key responsibilities, which again is satisfying the qualifying criteria. So if the job you're applying for needs experience of managing budgets, this could be an area, key responsibilities, where you're given examples of where you manage budgets, or stated that in your past roles and responsibilities you have managed budgets and staff salary quotas. At the bottom here is a personal profile, but it's a lot different to the one we saw on the previous CV. The reason why is because it's objective and specific. So here, we've gone from saying that we're enthusiastic and motivated, which no one can really prove, it's just us saying it, to actually providing facts and evidence, which is why it's objective. We're showing, yes, we're reinforcing that we have got 15 plus years experience, that we have worked in a head coach role and different roles, which already shows an experience. That these are facts, and we're reinforcing that because they're the qualifying criteria we want to be highlighted. As we go on down in the profile, then we put in evidence. Evidence, for example, of why we're an effective youth coach, why the teams you work with have gone on to gain success because they've, for example, they've gained professional contracts with professional clubs after being part in the environment of where you've worked within. If you're saying you're a successful head coach and that's part of the first CV personal profile, how are you successful? In this specific personal profile, my experience as a head coach has brought me success with the teams I've worked with, such as winning 2 league cups, qualifying for a national final, and also holding 2 league titles, which I've been very fortunate to be part of with one of the teams I work with. So you'll be actually going back to your experience and providing evidence of what you've achieved with that team, what you've achieved with that role. Have you got a list of achievements that you've actually got with certain organisations, working with certain teams or certain players or even certain staff? So this is now transforming your personal profile into evidence and facts which reinforce points made earlier in your CV, and it also reinforces the qualifying criteria which you've used. Finishing off at the bottom is just an education and courses, so qualifications section basically. Now, people want to put this right at the top. If you feel that's your strong point, okay, you can shift it at the top, but remember, we've already given them a quick overview of your qualifications. They already know that you're a UEFA A licensed coach because you put that at the top because it satisfies the qualifying criteria. So do we need to put all of our lists of qualifications at the top and take up space we could use for something more beneficial? Also, we need to be thinking about making our qualifications specific. Are you still listing your school education? When you've been out of school for 10, 15, 20 years, you're an adult now. No one cares if you got an F in history or a D in maths. If you're a football coach, then we're looking at football coaching. We're not looking at geography you got a C in 1998. Your degrees, if you went to university, if, this is my opinion, and this is how I work with my clients, if it's transferable or it's beneficial for the role, put it in. If you got a bachelor's degree in geography, then perhaps that's not really transferable or beneficial in a role as a football coach. If yours is some kind of sports coaching or management degree or organisational behaviour or leadership, then yes, this is transferable. If you're a qualified PE teacher, this is transferable. And moving on now to the next part. So at the beginning with the first example of the CV, where we showed half a page what the reader would see when they opened up your CV. This is half a page of the CV with this example if they open it up, and look at the difference you can see. Straight away, we've got all the information that the reader needs to see basically. You're still qualifying yourself, even in half a page, because it's at the top. Then they see the testimonial already giving good strength to your application. You can see a bit of your experience and some other information here. So this, compared to the first example, is miles apart in terms of quality, qualifying yourself and what the reader wants to see. Half a page, yes, I'm qualified for the role I'm applying for. Yes, I've showed some of my experience just on this half a page what's been opened. Yes, they can read a testimonial from someone I've worked for or worked with, and they can also see extra information which might be more experience, it might be qualifications, it may be some of your achievements. Just a last look at the difference now from what we started with, and remember, it's very rare that these kind of CVs are just one page. It goes on for 2, 3, 4, 5. I've seen 6 pages full of this writing compared to a one compact page which shows everything you need to qualify for a role and to apply for a role with a one-page CV.
Now we going way up, now we going